China's economic recovery is showing an uptick in March. Who is helping to boost China's exports? Is China the largest buyer of oil from Russia? Will global inflation come down with countries continuing to buy oil from Russia? We are going to discuss this today. Hi everyone! In my last video, I shared with you that China's economic recovery wasn't looking good because its export had fallen 6.8% in the first 2 months due to the drastic decline in exports to the EU and the US. China's export had fallen into negative territory since October last year. Guess what? China's export in March reversed the past 6 months' falling trend and shot up 14.8% as compared to a year ago. This was due to the large increase in exports to Russia. Out of all countries, export to Russia was the largest increase for China in March, and exports more than doubled to 9 billion from a year ago. Shipment to Russia totaled 24 billion in the first quarter, up 48% from a year earlier. China's exports to Russia have been increasing, and last year rose by 12.8% to $76.1 billion. Putin and his army invaded Ukraine in February last year. It's been more than a year since the attack on Ukraine. Have you ever wondered why Russia's war against Ukraine has lasted this long? This is because Russia has money to finance the war. It cost a lot of money to fund a war for that long. Russia reportedly spent 82 billion for the first 9 months of last year, according to Forbes Ukraine. Out of the 82 billion spent, 29 billion went into supporting the Russian army, 16 billion on soldiers' salary, 9 billion to compensate the families of servicemen killed in combat, 7.7 billion to support the families of those wounded in the war, and 21 billion for the Russian army's massive losses of military equipment on Russian soil. If we were to amortize the cost of 82 billion for 9 months, the war would cost Russia approximately 110 billion a year. Russia makes 560 million a day from oil revenue. Its trade surplus was 170 billion in 2021 as oil prices were increasing. Russia can easily fund the war expenses of 110 billion a year. Where is Russia getting the money from? The CCP is one of the largest culprits. Russia's main asset is its oil revenue, and the CCP has been buying lots of energy products from Russia. Since the start of the war, the EU has been the largest buyer of oil from Russia, and China was the second largest buyer. But now, China has become the largest buyer and purchased 16.3 billion euros worth of energy products from Russia this year, as compared to the EU's 12.2 billion euros. CCP gets discount of between 10 to 30% for the various energy products such as crude oil, LNG, and coal. China and Russia have also agreed to settle the payment in Chinese yuan and Russian rubles instead of the US dollars. The Chinese yuan has depreciated 9 to 16% against the US dollars, which means it will be more expensive to pay in US dollars. China can now buy cheaper oil with the discounts and Chinese yuan. The EU has been cutting its oil purchases from Russia, and export volumes have fallen by as much as 90% in February this year. The EU knows the only way to stop the war is to reduce Russia's oil revenue. The EU has also imposed a ban on export of coal from Russia in August last year, but Russia has found China to replace its falling exports to the EU. Coal exports to China has increased 57% last year. Bilateral trade with China will continue to grow to 200 billion this year and between 300 to 400 billion dollars next year. How can the war stop if countries continue to buy oil from Russia? For the CCP, it doesn't matter that people all over the world are suffering from inflation, and it doesn't matter that millions of innocent Ukrainians are killed, as long as it can benefit from buying cheap energy from Russia. CREA is proposing to cut the oil cap to $30 per barrel of crude oil, to cut Russia's oil revenue to $150 million a day, which will reduce its oil revenue by 3.7 times. The cap of $30 seems like the most viable option to reduce Russia's oil revenue drastically for now. If Putin continues to attack Ukraine, inflation will persist indefinitely. Inflation aside, what about the human toll on Ukrainians? Nearly 22,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed or injured, although the number is far higher than that. 18 million are living without electricity and water. 5.3 million are displaced from their homes, and there are even reports of sexual violence against Ukrainian women. Singapore's PM Lee Hsien Loong came out strongly to condemn the invasion and impose sanctions against Russia, and he rightly said that Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity must be respected. Take a listen.
Upholding the UN Charter, and in particular, not violating the sovereignty and territorial integrity and independence of states, members of the United Nations. And that's the fundamental principle which is vital to us, because if that's up for grabs, then what is our basis for saying we are entitled to exist and to security and to be safe in the world? Therefore, we took a strong stand. We supported the resolutions at the UN. We imposed targeted sanctions on Russia to inhibit their ability to do harm to Ukraine, supply of export controls, as well as some financial institutions and transactions.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused disruption in the energy and food supply chain and global inflation. Singapore's inflation had increased 6.3% as of February this year, as compared to a year ago. Inflation for energy import-dependent countries such as Singapore, Thailand, and the Philippines will be higher as compared to net energy exporting countries such as Indonesia and Malaysia, who have lower inflation rates of between 4 to 6% last year. Singaporeans are feeling the pinch of inflation. Sidley conducted a survey on 1,000 Singaporeans above the age of 16 late last year. 80% of the respondents said that their personal financial situation had been affected in the past year due to inflation. 71% are affected by the price increase of necessities, while between 26% to 36% are worried about their retirement and investments. 31% of Singaporeans are very or somewhat satisfied with the Singapore government's measure to help cope with inflation, while 24% were dissatisfied and 46% were neutral. What about keeping housing affordable? Around 41% are dissatisfied and 41% are neutral. Small countries like Singapore are especially vulnerable, and if such attacks on other countries are not condemned, it could encourage more attacks and set dangerous precedents. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and share.